So, all right. So, and sometimes we kind of just start talking because folks will join as we start talking. So, welcome everyone. Happy Friday. It's almost Thanksgiving. So there's, for a lot of folks, to look forward to next week, family, all of those things. And here we are with our special guest, Dr. Melinda Messineo.
Hello, Melinda Messineo here. I'm a professor of sociology. Very excited to be here.
Yeah. So now Tisha may join us at some point. She isn't able to at the moment, but if she pops in, we will definitely include her along the way. Tisha and I, we've been doing this for almost 2 years. So
oh my gosh, that is so much fun. Yeah, you're pros.
Exciting. We'll probably celebrate that next month. So yeah, but
Great.
So my intro here is, every month we hope to dive into the essence of leadership through authentic storytelling and sharing unique perspectives and exploring hot topics to inspire and empower leaders on their journey to success. And so our mission at Schaefer is to really focus on authentic leadership and all that we do, specifically servant leadership. And, Tish and I always talk about that we're always on the journey and to own your journey. Today, when we think about that leadership journey, we're talking about the topic of leading with dignity. And I am so excited to talk with Melinda about this because there's a resource and a tool that she's going to share about as well called the Dignity Index. And I just think that the topic of dignity is so crucial right now in the uncertain times that we live in. So Melinda just introduced herself just briefly, but I would love, now that we may have some more folks on, Melinda, please, just share a little bit about your background and how you came to have an interest in the topic of dignity as well.
Well, thank you so much. Again, Melinda Messineo. I'm a professor of sociology and have been working in this space where we're really trying to bring groups together, encourage dialogue, remove barriers that may be keeping either communities or workspaces or even families from being effective in communication with one another. So I came across this resource about a year ago as we were looking for ways to connect with individuals, and it just resonated with me so much. And so I'm excited to talk about this idea of dignity.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, and I do want to mention that we recently at Schaefer Leadership, as many of you know, we facilitate live workshops. And so Melinda recently facilitated a workshop about, really how can we disagree better and work better. And so before we dive into, I guess as we're diving into dignity, how did that workshop go for you, Melinda?
Oh my gosh, I had an amazing time. It was a packed house. We loved talking to everyone who was there, and people were really open to sharing their own experiences when they had experienced someone treating them with dignity. And kind of the other side of this, when people experience being treated with contempt and people coming together and understanding what that feels like and what's that like. And it was a wonderful space. It was great to be together. I learned a lot and I hope others left with it as well, but it was very engaged. Lots of people coming together.
Yeah. Well, let's take that energy and keep talking about it. So just let's start out and really just baseline, how would you define dignity and what it means to lead with dignity?
Yeah, so if we think about dignity, we want to focus on recognizing the inherent value and respect that is due to all individuals, like this fundamental thing that is everyone deserves to have, right? This idea of value and respect. I mentioned it in kind of comparison to another word, which is contempt, which is a feeling of scorn or intense dislike that treats others as, and this is the heartbreaking tragic part, makes others feel worthless and beneath consideration. And so this contrast between dignity, really lots of respect, and that other side, contempt, like people feeling worthless.
Yeah, it seems like such a contrast. When we talk about one side, the other. I mean, I just wonder, like, do you consider this like a spectrum, like where, people are at different places? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's presented often as a continuum
Yeah.
or a spectrum of, the most respect you could possibly give and the least respect, kind of on this continuum here. But what was really amazing to me was we asked people, like, well, remember a time when you were treated with dignity? And once we had sort of established what we meant by dignity, people saying they couldn't remember, that they felt like this current context was so full of contempt that it was hard to think of a time. In fact, some people shared that some of their workplace culture involves kind of poking at people, kind of jokingly, but maybe not so jokingly, where the kind of dig or kind of putting people down as a joke was very much a part of their family or community or even workplace culture. And so, I mean, it broke my heart when people said, Melinda, I don't remember the last time I was treated with dignity. I was like, oh my gosh, how could you, like, going through your everyday with that would really shut you down, and it might make you kind of hardened to other people. And so that's what we want to get away from.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, it makes me think about, like, what are some steps to take to get away from that? Or even if we're not the one who is necessarily participating in that, but we're surrounded by that.
Yeah. So, hey, Tisha, great to see you. Great to
Hello.
see you.
Oh, Tisha.
We were just talking about dignity and respect. So glad you're here.
Well, thank you for giving me some grace. So, hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello. We're so glad you're here. We were just talking about, well, what would this look like? And I think, some really basic ways to think about treating people with dignity, like on this continuum between dignity and contempt. Our whole goal is to get people engaging and interacting as far in that continuum of dignity as possible. And a lot of times we don't feel that way, but starting with this idea of giving people the benefit of doubt, and you just said, like, extending grace, is kind of a mindset to bring to these, spaces about how would I want to be experiencing this? How would I want to be treated? Like, is the golden rule like a way to think about this, but treat others as you would hope to be treated here? But a lot of times it's that we've removed ourselves from that person because we've been thinking of them in a way. We often use this language of other or them. So it's us versus them, or me versus the others. And so moving away from that kind of mindset to a we or an us and working together on shared goals is kind of just a general mindset to think about.
Yeah. It's like a team growth mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and I know, like, I think about, even when people talk to me, it shifts my mindset when it's about us. It's about how we grow. It's about what we can do versus I or them or they or others. And then I'm included as well. And I most of us want to be included.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's also a good strategy when you know that you're going to be maybe having a disagreement about something or having to come to people with some disagreement is coming from this shared space, just what you were saying about, like, this team mindset, and wanting to respect their just humanity as you're interacting with them, and giving them the benefit of the doubt, assuming best intentions, approaching the conversation with curiosity. Like, I'd like to understand more about what you were thinking here or where you're going with this, as opposed to immediate victory. Like, I'm going to win this. Like, this is something that I'm going to, I'm going to just show them, put them in their place, kind of thing. And so that's another strategy to think about. Like, am I coming in with the right mindset of curiosity and teamwork?
Melinda, just this morning, I was with a group of young individuals who are working towards some big things in their life between the ages of 18 and 24. And there were, I think, about 20 in the room, and two of them were talking. And I want to be very vulnerable here. And I was with them last week, and we talked about respect when somebody's talking. And I did this. I'm like, now wait a minute, guys. We need to give people respect. And they were very offended by me snapping my fingers. And so then I took a step back and I said, help me understand, I did not mean to offend you by no means. Let's talk about that. And oh my goodness, it just shifted their mood a little bit because I was listening to them, although they weren't listening to me.
Mm.
And we kind of, I don't know. The disagreement was that I said, hey, we got to respect each other, but I didn't realize I was disrespecting them at that moment. Anyhow, so it just made me, just you talking just a few minutes ago, made me think about my experience this morning and giving somebody dignity in that moment, that there was obviously a disagreement of how we should be handling ourselves in the room.
Yeah, and kudos to you because you immediately thought, wait. Like, I have some options here, right? I can get defensive. I can pull some authority in this. Like, no, you have to. But you paused and you're like, wait a minute, where are they coming from? We talk about this idea of, responding versus reacting. A lot of times where we go into that contempt side is we're just reacting and we're defensive and we want to win whatever this is, as opposed to pausing, taking a deep breath. They talk about regulating or, responding versus reacting, and then listening, and not listening just to like win the debate, but also to truly understand. Lots of really good active listening skills, which I know you all bring to workshops all the time. So those are really great strategies. The other thing that I have found to be really useful in terms of amplifying dignity in these kinds of situations, so if you ever have a chance to think about it, is acknowledging the knowledge that they bring to it, or acknowledging their good points. Like, yeah, you made a good point there, or like they said, we're not feeling respected, and you basically acknowledge their knowledge in that moment. You're like, okay, yeah, we're talking about respect here. You didn't feel respected. Let's talk about that, because that's a really good point. Like, we're on the same page here. We both want the same thing. Where again, you could have reacted very differently.
Yeah, I could have. And the other thing is too, I said that was not my intent. I apologize. And that apology went a long way with them.
Yeah. That's so cool. The other thing too, and I know you all do this too in other sessions, but we think about if it's an idea versus it's the person that you're really kind of wanting to, have a conversation about. So like challenging the idea, not the people, or critiquing the idea, not the people. Here it was like, hey, the action versus the you, right? Like, oh, okay, that action had an impact, but me, I am still together here with the team. So that's helpful as well. Can you separate those out?
Yeah, and you almost like you have to recognize it in the moment for yourself. And that's a growth moment for many
Yeah.
of us. And
Yeah.
for me, I have to practice it because, as you mentioned, in my responding, I'm a reactor. And so I have to recognize that about myself. So in those moments, I can change things up a little bit.
Yeah. And we all are, right? It's like taking that deep breath and figuring out where we're at. I mean, this is one of the things I love about the dignity index that Ailish had mentioned that got me into this. Like, I was trying to find other ways to talk about respect and bringing groups together. And this was a strategy designed to help tone down the rhetoric in a bunch of different contexts, in news, in politics, in social media, in neighborhoods. And one of the things that they found is, as soon as you start really being intentional about treating people with dignity as opposed to contempt, you're able to break that cycle of contempt. Because one of the things that happens is if you treat somebody with contempt, like you say something snarky or something that you didn't mean, but it was a good dig, you've got two choices. One choice is I have to either apologize, which you did. You're like, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to do. Or what you could have done was double down, right? And say, they don't deserve my respect, or they don't deserve it. So you diminish the people more, but then you feel bad about yourself. And so when you lead with contempt, you have to stay there, which creates a cycle of contempt, which makes us feel bad. It makes people feel bad. And it's so hard to get back to dignity.
Yeah.
And I would imagine when we're not there in dignity, then we get frustrated, and then we even lash out anymore. We shut down. I mean, there's all these emotions that come with that.
Oh yeah. It contempt breeds contempt. And so You get defensive, you shut down, and then you're depressed too. Like because we want to think of ourselves as good people. And if I think of myself as contemptuous, I don't feel good about myself. So I have to justify it so I can stay in that space. Like I'm doing good work here. Well, it's much easier to feel that way if you're leading from dignity, even if you're disagreeing. Like you don't have to agree on everything, but it's like disagreeing with dignity, bringing that to the table can really bridge divides and bring people back together again.
Oh, wow. This is powerful.
Yeah.
Love it. I hope people check it out. Like I didn't make it, I didn't design it, but I'm telling everybody, I'm not getting paid for it either, just so you know. Like people are saying, Melinda, we need something. Like we need something. What we're doing right now is not working. And we're having huge success with this. I'm very excited.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And what Melinda's talking about, there is an actual website and we'll post it, underneath it where there are resources. I've reviewed the website myself. There's dignity principles, there's worksheets, there's articles, and so, yeah. Is there anything like, I know that you are so passionate about the tool. Is there anything, something particular or resource or something that you really like about what they've developed, Melinda?
Yeah, so the dignity principles are so helpful. So if you start somewhere, I would start there because it really talks about how treating people with dignity brings people to their best selves. And so that is super powerful. And the other thing that was really impactful is like when you treat people with contempt, you are not going to win people to the cause. You might win the fight, like you really, you got your employee or your colleague or whatever, you really told them, but you did not bring them to the table, right? They don't agree with you now. They're just ready for the next battle. And so I feel like those two things, the cycle of contempt, this idea of leading with dignity and curiosity are just really powerful tools to put in our toolboxes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you were talking to, the one thing that I kept thinking about, the one mindset or skill set in coming together is empathy, right? Understanding without judgment, I think that really, to me, plays into leading with dignity.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's this tool that it seems so hard, but it's not. Does that make sense? It's not, because when you're in it, and we've talked about it, it's really pretty easy. And that's the shift. I love the whole thinking about the cycle and where I am and being curious to know what where the other person's coming from. And that's the place I've grown, is to be more curious, to come out of that cycle and really understand where somebody else is coming from. And I have to admit, I'm 53 and it's taken me, when stakes are high and emotions are high, it's really hard to think about these things.
Oh yeah. Fight or flight. Yeah.
And so again, understanding yourself, this tool is so, it makes a difference.
When people when they look through these resources, it definitely helps in interpersonal communications, but it's that self-reflection that I think really gets people started that way. And you end up feeling better about yourself when you're treating others with dignity, even if you're disagreeing with them. It allows people to come to the table and have a conversation. And that's super powerful. And I've seen it. Like we've had neighborhood associations, we've worked with community groups, we've worked with local churches and businesses, and consistently people say, this has given me tools to work with and ways to think about my own interactions. So,
oh wow, well,
so lead with dignity. What an idea! Yeah. So.
What an idea. As we're talking, I'm also thinking about just like different ways in how we communicate as human beings. Right?
Yeah.
Because we live in the age of social media. And I think about, the conversations that, Tish gave an example that she was in this live workshop. You're talking about, being in neighbors and stuff. And obviously like being present in person can make a significant difference. But there's a lot happening online. And I'm wondering how does that, kind of play in with, because it's difficult when it's not face to face.
Yeah. And one of the things I like about the Dignity Index, they give you this scale to think about phrases and statements. And so the good news about like doing stuff online even or social media is you have time, right? You have time to pause, look at what you wrote and think about it. And this idea is where is your current statement or thought right now on this dignity scale between dignity and contempt? And how would you move it more towards dignity? Like, what little things could you change that would be more dignified, bring people in to a space where they could hear you probably better? And so developing our own skills around that. So I think it's really effective in online spaces for that reason.
Yeah.
But it's also the online spaces that give us anonymity and the kind of rage clicking, and the more extreme the idea tends to get more attention. And so, yeah, this probably isn't going to go viral, but it might have a huge impact, and sort of like that butterfly effect, right? This little change could have little change, could create the storm of respect for one another. So I am always optimistic. I am Pollyannic, I know, but I believe if we're each kind of just moving everything we do towards greater dignity, we could make some huge changes.
Yeah. It makes me think about everyone out there. Like, what's one thing because we're always growing. Like, what's one thing that we can do to move towards dignity in our personal lives and our professional lives?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know how much time we have here, but we had one example where we're working with a neighborhood association, and they had different complaints from neighbors. Like, I wish my neighbor would bring in their trash can. They never bring in their trash cans. They're just so inconsiderate. And so their comment was kind of low in terms of dignity. It was a little bit with contempt. And so the group was talking about, well, how would you think about it? One person said, have you asked them if they're having trouble with their trash cans, right? And then someone asked, like, is there anything you could help them with? And it completely changed the frame. Like, maybe the neighbor was being inconsiderate, but just opening the idea that maybe they weren't, maybe they needed help, maybe they didn't know, completely shifted the conversation. And they were able to have a conversation as opposed to yelling at them and telling them like how horrible they are or how, inconsiderate they were. Right. So it was like a, people blowing their minds. And I think about that all the time. Like, is there a way I'm framing this that I could frame it in a much more full of grace kind of way?
Well, and it almost, for me, you can practice it anywhere, whatever space you're in. If you're at the store or your gas station, or even right here, just giving each other grace and understanding where we're coming from, so folks can get better at it the more they do it.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I will mention that came up in the workshop, it's come up in some other places too, is some people are worried. They're like, hey, Melinda, I think what this is asking me to do is allow myself to get walked on more. And I don't want to just get walked because I'm the nice one, right? And I'm always like giving people the benefit of the doubt or whatever. And so people are like resistant to this idea. And so this is one of the reasons why I really like the resources they have about disagreeing with dignity and being able to say, like, this is my perspective. I'd love to hear yours. I think we disagree on this, but I think we agree here, right? So it's not about just like letting people always, have their way or walk all over you. It's bringing the disagreement with respect in a way that allows the conversation to happen.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's fantastic right there.
So don't let people walk on you. But, I mean, it's so interesting that we juxtapose getting walked on versus treating people with dignity. Like, they shouldn't have to be in opposition with one another, So this idea that there should be other ways to do this, and there are other ways to do it.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's fabulous, because I think that Tish and I on this Authentic Leadership Live, we talk a lot about self-advocacy.
Yeah.
And so, you can still, it sounds like what you're saying, so you can still advocate for your ideas, your beliefs, yourself, but, you can do that with dignity. You don't have to do that with contempt, and you can, you're not going to have people walk all over you. You can still share your beliefs.
Yeah. And this idea of like, dignity is an infinite resource. Like, this isn't a limited resource that if I'm getting dignity, it means I'm taking dignity away from you. That's not it at all, right? It's an infinite resource. There's an infinite amount of dignity. We recognize it in other people, right? It is embodied in other people, and we're recognizing the dignity of who they are and the respect that they are due as an individual. And so my treating you with respect does not need to diminish my right to get respect. And so just some great example. I'll give you one example here that came up in the workshop where we were talking about a disagreement with someone who was being kind of toxic in a workplace.
Yeah.
And there was numerous ways to take this person's comment. And so let's say it was something like, well, I'm sure you'd get the report done if you ever thought about it. And the person said, okay, I feel like that was dripping with contempt, and they wanted to come back with similar contempt. And the person had the option to say, you know, I really appreciate your feedback, and I'm choosing to interpret that you know that I'm super busy and that this just hadn't gotten on my radar yet. And you're right. And I appreciate that. And that's the interpretation I'm going to take. Like, because it could have been kind of dripping with contempt, but the person owned it, didn't accept the critique, turned it back and said, I'm going to extend you this dignity and thank you. You know, and people were shocked, you know, like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, you can also choose the interpretation. So.
Yeah. It's amazing. People are shocked. I would imagine if those types of conversations were just even more commonplace, like, you know, because it sounds like that's, I don't know, that particular example that, you know, if people are shocked, that reaction tells us something about what's happening in workplaces.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, it's sort of like the one, like they could come up with examples of contempt easier than they could come up with examples of dignity. That speaks a lot to what our everyday lived experiences are like. So how do we up it to, oh yeah, I've got all these examples of dignity where I treated people with dignity, where people treated me with dignity. I'd love that to be front of mind. Yeah.
Well, it can only be like just you sharing to me is contagious. Like I want to be a part of those conversations where people are treating folks with dignity and understanding. And it's almost like a power thing, right? It's not a win-lose.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing too, and this is where this dignity index came from, in addition to helping people recognize dignity, contempt, and I will say the index said it doesn't matter what your position, your political ideology, where you work, where you are in an organization, people recognize contempt when they saw it, and they recognize dignity when they saw it. Like there is broad cultural agreement about what those are. The other thing that they were trying to do was to empower people to hold individuals accountable for treating their coworkers, the people they supervise, their constituents with dignity. Like we deserve and we expect to be treated with dignity here. And we are not going to perpetuate this cycle of contempt. So again, you're talking about power, like, we refuse this contemptuous narrative, right? We are not going to have snarky, toxic workplaces. We're going to move the dialogue to respect in these spaces. And it's hard because especially like if people kind of like the snarky, you know, they like that a little bit. But I always say, like, those are places where people sort of go along to get along. They may not actually like it, but if that's just how people sort of dig at each other, it's hard to break it because then you look like you're the goody two shoes or whatever, like, you know, but you're like, no, we're going to celebrate each other and we're going to really amplify each other's successes and we're going to treat each other with the respect and dignity that their contributions truly deserve. Like, that's a totally different mindset.
Wow.
Oh, I love this. I'm thinking of all the spaces I'm in and I just want to share.
Yeah. I mean,
you're like, dignity.
Give it out like contagious, you know. It's leading by example is what I'm hearing, right? Like, you know, at all levels, right? Wherever you are.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that also came out where people were thinking about times they had treated people with contempt. And they're like, yeah, it felt good in the moment, but I kind of felt icky afterward. And I had to grapple with that for a while. And Melinda, now I kind of have an idea why I had to grapple with that. I'm like, yeah, that cycle feels icky. So let's not do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Think about that. Yeah. I mean, I think that this all connects to just fostering that culture of giving out dignity. So
our meme will be dignity for you.
I love
it. It's like, you know, like you said, it's an unlimited resource.
It's an unlimited resources. It's embodied in us all.
Yeah. So everyone who's watching, like, you know, how are you going to tap into this resource for yourself, for others, and your personal lives and your work life. I think about, we're headed towards the end of 2025 into 2026. So maybe like a New Year's resolution, folks. So something to think about. But Melinda, this has been fabulous. As our conversation is coming to a close here, so much to take away. We hope that, obviously, if you didn't watch this live, you can rewatch this because there's a lot of rich content in here just to think about. Melinda, is there anything else that you want to share when it comes to the Dignity Index today?
So check it out, learn from it, and start with yourself, treating yourself and with respect and dignity, and getting out of that cycle of contempt. That's what I would send take away. And thank you all for having me. This has been a ton of fun.
Well, thank you. I apologize for being late. I missed the first part of it, but wow, this is exciting.
Yeah, well, we give you grace.
You can watch it, so you can watch the front.
Yeah, we give you that grace. No, this is fab. Yeah, we'll link, of course, to the Dignity Index, and thank you so much. This is as we end this year, and where we're headed in 2026. This is a wonderful conversation to be had, and I think Melinda said it best. Start with yourself. We always talk about starting with ourselves in leadership. So we all are leaders. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.